Mr. James back with part two of a guide to writing a yearbook story. I was going to put this in part one, but I think it started getting a little lengthy. I'm starting to ramble. First time I went with a script and I felt like I was reading, so then I went without a script and I started rambling. So we're going to try it this way. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. On the first mention of a source, when you're quoting someone, use the first name, the last name, and then the title or classification. So freshman, teacher of English, principal, something like that. Now, only titles can come before the name. Now you're thinking, what about last year's book? Yes, last year's book we did something that was against AP style, but it was already in so many stories that we didn't go back and change it. But this year we're going to go back with the AP style. So Principal Nick Mounts, that's okay. It's capitalized because it's a formal title and it's coming before the name. It is a title, so capitalized. Carly Reed, Senior, this is a classification. So it will come after with a comma before it. Now, if I was going to write about Carly in the context of being yearbook editor, I could say editor Carly Reed, and that would be capitalized before her name. But if we're just quoting her as a student, then we would do it this way. Now, on subsequent mentions of a source, you can use last name only, unless your publication style book uses an alternative attribution system. So far, we're sticking with the AP style. Now, we could decide to make an Excalibur style book, and then we could change a couple AP rules, and we can discuss that. But say we decided to use first name for a student. Well, if we do that, we have to always use first name. So for now, let's just keep it as after the first time you use the full name, and then the title or classification. And the second time, you use just the last name. So if I quoted Coach Mounts one time, I would say Principal Nick Mounts, and then the second time I quoted him, I would just call him Mounts. Now, as far as where to place the attribution, and the attribution is this part, Principal Nick Mounts said, you place that at the first natural pause in the speech. So read it aloud so that you can hear where that pause is. Now, if a quote is particularly long, you want to make sure and treat it as separate sentences. Don't just go with a comma after the said and begin the rest of it. Treat it as if it would be an actual separate sentence, because that's probably how it was said anyway. Most of the time, your attribution just is after the quote, because that's where the natural pause is. Try to avoid putting it in front of the quote. It's just not... It's usually what they said is a little more important, and then who said it. And then I usually try to stick with the habit of putting the person's name in front of the word said. Only quote one source, one person, per paragraph. Never quote more than one person in the same paragraph. It's confusing, and it's just violating the conventions of standard written English. So just don't do that. Most of the time you should use the verb said when using attribution. That should be your attribution verb. I know that you have an instinct to vary your writing, and that's great that you have that instinct. But really what happens is, and they've done studies that show that people just skip over the word said. They read what they say, and then they read who said it, and then they move on. I mean, reading journalism is a very short attention span type thing. So throwing in changing said to uttered or muttered or replied or mentioned really slows down that flow and actually gets them to stop the reading rather than moving through it quickly like their instinct is to do. So we don't want to do anything that would break that down. Never use the verb stated unless you're talking about like a formal document. And most of the time in yearbook, you won't be quoting a formal document. Even if it's in an email, then I would probably just use wrote instead of said or stated. But stated itself it has a specific purpose in journalism. And that's when it comes from a formal document and you're quoting a line from that. Okay, now we're going to look at an example I just wrote this in a few minutes, so don't be too hard on me. And again, it's a first draft, so Ernest Hemingway said the first draft of anything is crap, except for he used a different word. And what you should take from that is that rewriting is your best writing. So this is the first time you write it. I want you to put it in a Word document. I don't think I said that in the first video. Start your writing in a Word document. Don't put it in. Don't write it straight in the design program, because putting in a Word document gives us an extra chance to edit it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and read through this story real quick. And that's my dog jingling around. I guess I should have put her up, but I'm not going to stop. I'm on a roll. School board president Marge Simpson once met a man with 3 curly hairs sprouting from his otherwise bald head. He gave her dead flowers when he asked her out. He was a total moron. He was sweet, though, and they just celebrated their 30th anniversary at the final school board meeting of 2018. It was so cool to see Mom and Dad honored for their hard work, Lisa Simpson, 5th grade, said. The anniversary festivities punctuated a 9-month reign of educational progress. The board members brought about many new changes, all of which helped to better serve the students in the district. I was so excited to be part of such a progressive, forward-thinking group of individuals, School Board Vice President Ned Flanders said. Granting the yearbook staff a Mac lab of 10 computers and a 5-year subscription to Adobe InDesign is one of the most satisfying moments in my lifetime. Yearbook wasn't the only group of people who were stoked about the school board's decisions. I've always loved my job, Edna Krabappel, 5th grade teacher, said, but wow, a 20% pay increase in my own office? It looks like we're going to be the first district in the country to follow the example Finland's exemplary educational system has set. All classified employees of the district also received a pay increase and an insurance discount. While Mrs. Krabappel and the other teachers relished lunchtime in their new offices, the students enjoyed the noon hour for their own reasons. Over the summer, maintenance crews filled the cafeteria with cushioned booths while the kitchen staff worked on their new menu. The homemade chicken tenders are awesome, Bobby Mendix, Sr. said. The real yeast roll is way better than the old wheat buns we used to get. I love high school. One thing's for sure, the faculty, staff, and student body of 2018 will celebrate right along with Homer and Marge Simpson. Their 30th year of marriage was Centerpoint's best year of school. Okay, so we're going to look at the parts. First of all, let me point out this. Try not to do this too much. Where you name Centerpoint, because everybody knows it's Centerpoint's yearbook. But in this case, I felt like it fit, and the only other option I could think of at the time was using the word our, which puts me in first person. And since we're maintaining objectivity, we want to avoid writing in the first person. So I felt like using the school's name was okay there. But let's just make sure we do that sparingly. Don't put Centerpoint in every story or any story if possible, because everybody knows it's Centerpoint. So let's look at the lead. This is the same lead that I put in the part 1 video. This is the Anecdote Lead. So it gets your attention. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but we see, that he was a moron. This is something that's attention-getting. Gave her dead flowers. This is a story about a guy who ends up marrying a woman, and even though he was kind of a dunce. So that gets someone's attention. The nut graph does what it's supposed to do. It adds more information. We also have a quote in there. That's not a necessary part of a nut graph, but it can help a nut graph. It can help it be more interesting, and it should keep the reader invested. Then we have a quote. You see the format. This is what I was talking about, making it separate sentences. Sometimes young writers will put a comma there and then just continue on as if it was one thought. But this is actually a separate sentence. And it was probably said as if it was a separate sentence. Then we have a transition. We're connecting the yearbook quote to other people being happy about the school board's decisions. We have a quote from a teacher. So far we've had a student, a school board member, and now a teacher. Then we have another transition connecting the school board, the great decisions about the school board, which is kind of the theme that's running throughout the story. And we're connecting that to how the students are enjoying lunch, right? So we have a teacher enjoying lunch connected to student enjoying lunch, and then we have a quote at the other side of that transition. And then we conclude. And the conclusion brings us back. It's what I like to call the circle conclusion. It brings us back to the lead. So that's pretty much the formula, you guys. It's not the best story ever written, and as I said, it's a first draft, so don't be too hard on me. But if you write a first draft in a similar fashion, then I think that we'll be okay. Like in this one, for instance, some of the sentences are too long. I feel like it would have flowed better with a couple short sentences, some varied sentence structure. But that's something we can take care of when we edit it. So just do your first draft like this, and we're gonna have some pretty quality stuff in our wonderful edition of the Excalibur. So I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to get this stuff rolling and see some of this stuff actually within the design program, and then to actually have it on paper is just going to be amazing. So good luck. I can't wait to work with all of you. Looking forward to it all year long. So have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in class.